it's just a lot of action steps completed until you're done.
Yes.
And that's just what writing a book is. And it seems daunting and it's hard. Yes, it's hard, but everything's hard in life. So you got to pick the things you love to do.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna love this episode. This episode is with Lisa Caprelli, and she approached me on LinkedIn to be interviewed on the show. And I am just blown away by this incredible woman. She is a speaker and a songwriter, an author, a producer of a TV show. She wrote this incredible kids series called the Unicorn Jazz Children's Book Series. What I love about her is the messages that she's bringing to children. And she's going into schools. She created this platform of reaching children in so many different arenas, not just in written word in terms of book series, but also in terms of TV shows and including children in the TV show itself. So she's asked children to come onto the show, to be a part of puppets and different characters that she presents in the Unicorn Jazz series. And throughout all these different platforms, she really is bringing this thread of kindness, empowerment, happiness, teamwork, these basic structures of setting us up for happiness and success in our lives, really starting with these very foundational elements with children and making them feel like they're a part of this adventure. What I love in this interview is she shares with us how she got this idea, some of the tenets that were a part of who she was as a really not very privileged Latina background. When she was growing up, she didn't have very much. She talks about washing the same pair of socks from day to day and how out of that really came some incredible strengths. And here she is creating this empire and really behind a great, great message. And another thing to listen for in the episode, by the way, she talks about the 5 hats of happiness, and the message that she's giving to children really translates to us as adults as well. So I know you're going to love this interview. Get ready because she is a ball of energy. So just get yourselves ready for this episode, but absolutely a fascinating person. Please join me with this episode with Lisa Caprelli. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today we have a phenomenal human being with us. She's a speaker, songwriter, author of the Unicorn Jazz children's book series. There it is. Thank you so much. We're speaking with Lisa Caprelli. Lisa, welcome to the Business of Happiness. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Dr. Tarryn.
I'm so excited to have you here today. I have been learning so much about you, and you are doing some incredible things in this world for children and inspiring children and creating so many different platforms for children to understand and to learn your message. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve and how you do it.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, I have a background 25 years in marketing and branding, and I changed my life about 3 years ago to start a unicorn jazz business and writing books, and created songs. And during the pandemic, I created a show that's called The Thing I Do, that's based on my book and song, The Thing I Do. So definitely have adapted to change that, the pandemic brought really the world.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful that I have a huge purpose. I get to do what I love, speaking with children and obviously influencing parents and educators. And I didn't know, that I would have this much fun, to be feeling 7 years old a lot of times, bringing out puppets and that are characters from my books, and all these creative ideas that I get to do daily has been more than I could have imagined. And I will say, for me, writing has always been my strong suit and my skill set. So that is one thing that I was able to tap into and really do that for the rest of my life.
That's so cool, Lisa. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's start with the Unicorn Jazz series. What is that? Where did this come from, and what exactly is the mission of Unicorn Jazz?
Yeah, so Unicorn Jazz, she has a musical note for a tail, as you can see, and I do have that trademark. And so unicorns are an iconic global figure, boys and girls, adults love unicorns, kids of all ages, adults of all ages. And I started doing that research and studying that. And I wanted to create a brand since my background is marketing and branding companies from concept idea to fruition. And I realized that there's not like a unicorn that has like a name that's global yet. Like there's Hello Kitty, there's Mickey Mouse, and for me, there's Unicorn Jazz. So when I created the IP, the intellectual property, I wanted to start with stories because writing is something that comes natural to me, and then it's copyrighted, so that's not something that you can duplicate. So I knew I wanted to be able to go on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and create the stories and series. And my illustrator, Davey Villalobos, happens to be my cousin. It was his lifelong dream to be a published illustrator. So we teamed up. I said, let's help me. I showed him the vision of what I wanted when I began this journey 3 years ago. I started going into schools, and all my books, have social emotional learning messages, talks about feelings and emotions, happiness. I have a book called Being Happy with Unicorn Jazz and Friends. Some of them are also in Spanish. This is Being Happy in Spanish, which is Abejita Feliz. And, the art we like to put in our books is hand-drawn art, because that's what we want to encourage kids to be kinesthetic, using crayons and pencils, even though things are digital today.
Yes.
So it's been a whirlwind of fun, incredible lessons, and many things happened that I didn't know would happen in speaking to schools. Like, I'll speak whether it's 100 students at a school, 1,000 students, and they wanted to start learning about the background. How did you do it? How do I create, how did I create puppets? How do I use the green screen studio? And these are things that kids actually have questions about. Again, you and I, we didn't grow up with all this technology. You and I are older than Google.
Yes.
So I started teaching about teamwork, and thankfully my combined decades of experience lent to all of this combined. Like I'm not a singer, so I use professional, singer songwriters to help me with some of my songs. And so my big give to people and in my speaking is that you could do anything you want to do when you put your mind to it, team up with people. And that's what the thing I do is. The thing I do is about the thing you do and what do you love to do, and that's what you should do.
Wonderful. So is that a common theme in your books and in your TV show?
Yeah, the thing I do is common in the sense that, like with Unicorn Jazz in the first book moves to a new land in search of new friends. She's a shy unicorn. And by the way, I put a little bit of my personality because I grew up really shy. And I learned through education and how to speak, to be in front of a camera during the pandemic when I did YouTube, Facebook Lives, many things and platforms that we all, had to lend our voice to the world. I didn't like it, but I had to do it. There's a saying, if it's to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And I just learned, and eventually you get over that. I mean, I got over my stage fright. I look at it as, who else is going to be the spokesperson? I represent so many people, and then kids that are behind the Unicorn Jazz show and brand that came together during the pandemic, who had time and talent. Broadway singers like Emily Isabel, Rhett Drennan, Winter Donnelly, all these amazing different people that connected with me as we did an outreach or were referred to during the pandemic to create the show, because we all had this time.
Wow. And so tell me more about this show that you have. So we keep glossing over all your accomplishments because there's so many, Lisa. You've done so much in 3 years' time. You really are the definition of taking an opportunity, and in this case, the pandemic, and just
Yeah.
creating an empire out of it, Lisa. So tell us a little bit about the show that you have on Amazon TV.
Yes, it's going to be live this summer. And we have one pilot episode up. It's called Unicorn Jazz Presents the Thing I Do. And, it's been called like a modern day Sesame Street, but, meets Mickey Mouse Club, where kids can send in their content and we, video piece it together, thanks to video being a lot easier today. Like
Yes.
we don't longer need a professional studio. So I realized all that. I knew how to use Zoom capabilities, there's StreamYard, things like that. And I started just saying, well, what's the software I can use? How, many of us have iPhones, which are as we know, have amazing capabilities. Again, you and I didn't have that growing up, right?
Yeah.
So what I have found is actually kids sometimes know the technology better than adults in some ways, but it's because they've grown up with the internet in their pocket. And
Absolutely.
and so working with the kids behind the scenes and directing themes, whether it's about kindness or about, we've done lots of music videos. I have a whole song album called Unicorn Jazz, the thing I do. I have a song called Rainbow. I have a baby song. I have a song that's the thing I do, which is, I love them all. And we continue to do them. We have a Dance and Sing with Me music video coming out soon. The song's already out. And kids from all over the country behind the scenes can record their scene. And I have editors and we edit it into music videos. So what I have found is it's a lot easier today to put out product, content. And so behind the scenes, I feel like I'm always playing and creating the next thing and many things ahead. We're going to be at the global licensing this August so that we could get our, characters licensed, hopefully a cartoon animation series. And but I knew this early on when I created Tarryn, that there was be many things to come. And when you have a business, there's many variables that may not happen. It comes down to the connections and people seeing you do the great work in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to go back to what inspired this. Where did this thought come from? This had so many avenues, and I hear you. It's got so much potential for growth into so many different arenas. But what sparked the idea in the very beginning of this?
Yeah, I get asked it all the time. Well, I went on a 2.5 year quest and research to do this book called Skip a Step, Skip a Step, Imparting Wisdom for Young Entrepreneur Minds. I have another book called Color Your Message, The Art of Digital Media. But this book was interviewing 13 different entrepreneur leaders and asking them, what would you tell your younger self? What makes for meaning and happiness, and it wasn't about like, how do you make a lot of money? Like as we get older, we realize that money is not everything, obviously we want to have career and that kind of thing. And so, every one of them had struggled, trials and tribulations. There's no one that just went to the top and made it big. And in life, as we know, that we're always going to have those highs and lows, and how you come back, how you persevere. What would you tell your younger self? What steps would you skip if you were younger? That's why it's called Skip a Step, and because I realized when I was young, I grew up, very humble beginnings in El Paso, Texas, a border town. I came from a large Hispanic family. My grandmother, her mom died when she was in 3rd grade. And so she had to leave school to raise her family. And my grandmother always said, get an education, among many things. And my grandmother was one of many people in my life that believed in me. So one of my characters in Unicorn Jazz's friend is a crow who's named Wolf, and he believes in her and kind of, it helps change her life. And so I realized in life that there's many people that are going to change your life, and it may not be a lot of people. It may be a teacher, it may be a friend, it may be a professor. And I feel now a moral responsibility to pay it back and pay it forward and to teach other people. I'm sorry if you're hearing that cat, I could move him out.
No, I love hearing the cat in the background. It's very endearing.
Okay, he wants to be on the set. Okay.
I love it because I think that it also introduces this other aspect that the pandemic taught us, and that is that we are all living very multifaceted lives, and we get these little insights into people's lives. And that's one of the reasons why I love this podcast, Lisa, is because I get to see you and hear your cat at the same time, and which reminds us, that you are a human being functioning in this world.
Yeah, a homegrown studio.
Love it. Love it. And what a great lesson as well for children, to know that you can be this multifaceted person and you can still create beautiful things and follow your dreams, even in your living room with your cat in the background.
I know. And you know what? Like with this puppet, so many things behind the scenes. So his name's Treziki, and I introduced him because, we had Unicorn Jazz, and I didn't want the brand to be only, like girly or, female based per se.
So for our listeners who are not watching this on YouTube, but are listening to this on Apple Podcast or on Spotify, you're showing us 2 puppets. They both have horns. One looks like a zebra, and the other one looks like a unicorn.
Yeah. So he's a zebra corn.
Oh, a zebra corn. Thank you. That's what I was wondering.
But I'm
What are
glad
we
you said
looking
on
at?
your own. No, but I'm glad that and then did
Yes.
Unicorn Jazz. So I play
Okay.
her voice. I became the voice of Unicorn Jazz. I'm not a professional voice actress, but I've gotten better. And then my older son, Matthew, he's 30 years old and he's a nurse. That's his main career. That's the thing he does. So he was like, well, how can I not help you? And he does the voice of Trey Zeke is his name.
So
Trey's
cool.
named after my younger son, Trey Zeke. And I have to send, we put him on Instagram, the bloopers and the behind the scenes.
Oh,
He's has this
great.
like British voice. He's actually one of the best characters, and he's not a real actor, but everybody loves him. And when I get to work with him, I just in heaven laughing. And he does a game show. We use StreamYard where we get kids in and he comes on by himself, and so it's like, think about it, like a game show with different grids, that like a Zoom like
Yes.
concept. And so I thought of that, and then I put questions up, and kids impromptu will come on and answer them, and only the zebra corn Trey Zeke's on the screen. We have music. Afterwards we edit it and make it into a small little clip that becomes part of the thing I do show. And honestly, that's one of my favorite parts.
Oh, wow.
It's so much
Cool.
fun.
And so the intention behind the thing I do, what is the intention there behind that TV show?
Yeah, well, before the pandemic, as I was going into schools and speaking about characters and imagination, I would have kids just be enamored with all the things I was creating that started with writing concept and art and all these different things, and there to inspire them to continue that creativity, to go to their library and check out all the books. And they have such a treasure trove around them. And really, of course, as educators and librarians want us to encourage kids to read. And so everyone started saying, some kids, maybe their thing is science. Maybe they're not artists, they're not writers. And I'm not here to tell anyone they should do that. But one, it's about teamwork, that we need each other. And, like I needed singers and professional singers, not me, for the songs I was creating and for the show that was, again, think of like Sesame Street. They have songs in them with the lesson and it's fun. And the songs make us remember it. And I know that because I remember all the Sesame Streets because of the songs.
Yes.
And so the thing I do has a lot of musical talent in it. Using kids who come on screen, green screen and behind the scenes, we're editing it to the theme we want. And they're sharing a fun fact. They're sharing a beautiful lesson about kindness. The puppets come up here and there, And again, I did this the best I could using my studio. And for me, it was kind of like baby Einstein started out of a woman's garage. She had an $18,000 budget, I read. And 5 years later, she sold it to Disney, I want to say for 24 million, whatever. And for me, I just thought, I can do something, and I know how to create and put all these pieces together. So when people are overwhelmed at like, how do you do this? I can see that side of it, because it's just a lot of action steps completed until you're done.
Yes. And
that's just what writing a book is. And it seems daunting and it's hard. Yes, it's hard. But everything's hard in life. So you got to pick the things you love to do. If you're a musician, or maybe you just want to pick up the guitar because that's something you've always wanted to do, and maybe years later you're playing on stage somewhere locally, and it's not about making money, it's about enjoying what you love so that you become happier in life. Because as we all know, we are living longer than ever before. 10,000 people turn 65 each and every day. And for me, I want people to be happy doing what they love and make the world a better place.
That's fabulous. That's such a great inspirational story, and I love your purpose that you have, trying to create a better place, and especially in terms of the generational aspect of it, starting with children who are really young and forming their mindset for the rest of their lives and having that influence on them at a really young age. And it sounds like between your grandmother and Sesame Street, it sounds like we're both big influences on your childhood. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. Tell us about your childhood in terms of the influences you had and what really sparked your sense of adventure and fun, but also your sense of being able to dedicate yourself to a task and put one foot in front of each other and do the
Yeah.
hard thing.
Yeah, well, my grandfather had incredible work ethic. He worked for the railroad. He worked for the railroad as a foreman. By the way, my R's and W's, that's my speech impediment, and I'm okay laughing at it. And so he really gave everything, him and my grandmother, to our family. My mother was a single mom raising 5 children, and I often say, how do you know you're poor unless someone tells you? Because you don't walk around saying I'm poor per se, and you go into school and then you realize what you don't have. You go to other people's houses and you realize you don't have a lot, and that was really us. I will say we had a lot of love, a lot of laughter. I have 3 sisters, so there's 4 girls. I have a brother, and we had so much fun and so much love and so much good food, as Hispanic families can be known for. We didn't have material possessions. We didn't have endless amount of clothes. Like, we really had to wash our socks the next day to have socks the next day, like things like that you take for granted. And so for me, I feel, as a little girl, I always thought having stuff was the thing. Maybe that was going to make you happier. Again, as we know, like material possessions. So I moved to California 20 years ago when I was 29 years old. I came here with really nothing but like $100 type story, huge ambition, and everyone started helping me. By then I already had done marketing and helping businesses in Texas do well. Still very shy, very introverted, but very strong work ethic. And in college, I learned everything I could. I have a degree in social psychology, and I did that probably to learn about communication and human behavior, which is what makes the world go round in business and relationships.
Absolutely.
And so then I started my own business. I partnered with someone. We did really well. I was the writer behind the messages when we went on radio. We did FM shows, AM shows. This was before social media, and marketing was different then. And so people started realizing, the marketing and my ideas, and making them come true into business and learning. By this time, I knew how to run a business. I knew human resources. I knew the components of a business. Still learning. You always learn when you have a business. And after working with over 150 CEOs and brands out there networking, I live in Orange County, very, very well-to-do area, pretty much. I live 5 blocks from the beach today, very grateful. I didn't see a beach till I was 17. And I started asking people that either came from nothing or they inherited a business, the type situation. I was always curious if they were happy. Like, I'd go to houses where people had a yacht and houses that I was like to die for. And I often say, you help a business person make money, they're going to be your good friend. So I had a lot of good friends because I helped so many people with their brand and business and marketing, so many. And I was very grateful that, one, they trusted me to help market them. And whether it was video, and I learned how to video edit, I learned how to outsource all these things, obviously, and have quality behind that. I learned how to do websites, build a website, and manage the writing and branding. So that came eventually natural to me, whether it was a med device company, an author, I worked with school district, I worked with a Toyota dealership. I mean, it was amazing that I could work with a product that I never knew what they did, and then figure it out and then market it to their target audience. So cool. That was really cool that people would come to me. Sometimes it was like a big gulp, like, I don't know this product and you want me? They're like, we want you. We heard you're the brains behind doing things. Cool. So after a while, you get confidence that kind of I could do anything. And what I started seeing is that a lot of people weren't happy because they were spending all their time either working too much, not having balance in their life. So in my Skip a Step chapter 13, I came up with a philosophy that I call the 5 hats. And I feel that there's 5 areas of life that we all need balance in, and they're going to be different for different people at different areas of their life and different ages of their life. So family, friendship, career, connection, and
Mm.
adventure.
Mm.
And you're going to have your own, and I'm going to have my own, and people that are employees or colleagues and relationships. And if you get to understand what fuels them, what makes you tick and drive, and they're all different. You can
Mm.
spend time talking to someone, like their adventure hat might be hiking, it might be travel, it might be music. And if you spend too much time in one hat, like as I did, working too much, in career, other hats are going to suffer.
Mm. Mm. That's fascinating. So, what is your adventure hat?
Oh my gosh, I love to travel. And because of Unicorn Jazz and the fact that there's pretty much kids everywhere in the world, my vision that started happening already before the pandemic was that I was going to go on a, tour city by city, wherever I'm called. I'm getting a lot of media attention, marketing. Of course, the marketing is easy for me in a sense. And I was getting booked because people saw the positive influence, in the kids, and the librarians would tell other district librarians. And then I was like being booked for a whole school district. And of course, yes, do I want to sell
Yes.
books? The best thing I can do, yes. And now I could sell, plushes and things that I was making. And so the pandemic hits, and all that was taken away from me. It was halted. So I was one of the businesses that was affected. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I think it took me 2 weeks studying, going to Facebook groups and joining and seeing Facebook groups grow from 1,000 people to 10,000. And I started, this is my human behavior brain, studying what the world was thinking. And there was fear going on and all these things that, as we know, changed overnight. I have a 15-year-old overnight. He couldn't go to school like, many
Mm.
kids. And the schools weren't ready for this lack of technology, lack of not understanding. And I just realized that I do have a good technology background. And for me, it was like a race, like, oh my God, what can I do? And then because I have a media background, I've done all kinds of podcasts and, I know technology pretty well. I said, I'm going to do a show, and I was going to start YouTube and Facebook Live because that's easy. Anyone can do it. I got StreamYard. I asked friends, for technology capabilities, what should I do? Um, and I just started asking people for content to send into the show. And behind the scenes, I was piecing it together, editing it together to make like a 10-minute show, 20-minute show. So that consumed my whole week. So I wasn't able to go to schools anymore. And then I started realizing, like, when the pandemic left, whenever that it was, I'm going to have all this content. So when I go to schools, I'm going to have more than what I was getting. And it became fun. I didn't watch the news. I was having people at home making sock puppets, like this one here, just a sock puppet. This is Unicorn Jack.
Oh my gosh.
And I had people doing it, and they would send it to me, and then I would be like, okay, but like, make sure you do the camera this way, do it on this message. And they couldn't do a 6-minute video piece. It had to be like 30 seconds or 60. If not, I would edit it if they couldn't get it. And then my sisters were like, we don't get this sock puppet thing, but here you go. And so we're just laughing. And so I'm realizing the happiness we're bringing families. And then I started thinking, like, merging it into like what would Sesame Street do if you had like no studio and you're getting people to do things out of their home, right? Homegrown.
Yeah.
And that's what the thing I do was. And then I started getting professional kid actresses that their lives were halted. I talked about my life being halted,
Mm.
and you take away someone's thing, it's really hard. So I said, well, I had Winter Donnelly's mom out of New York that said, you wouldn't have time. My kid would never have time to do this homegrown thing if it wasn't for the pandemic. And then I said, I know that, but you do have time, and I'm going to help. Like, let's bring happiness to kids. And I started, creating relationship with the parents, and the parents, it gave them a purpose. It gave the kids a purpose. And then I would then go to bring it to the schools virtually. I told them I'm going to put this, my goal is to put it on, Amazon, which I did. And I didn't know how easy that would be or hard. I asked a lot. I actually worked more during the pandemic than any time in my life because I had that time. So that was a silver lining.
Wow. You have so many incredible strengths, Lisa. One of them is this really positive attitude that even when something negative happens, you look at it for an opportunity. And where does that come from for you? Where did you learn that, or
Yeah,
how did you cultivate that really great talent?
thank you. I love that question because, you know, for me, unhappiness is quicksand. Getting depressed is quicksand, and really for me, like being the leader of my house, I wanted to make my household happy, you know, and of course myself. And because I saw the doom and gloom of what was
Mm,
happening, I wanted to be the opposite of that and be the leader. And when I go into to school, Zoom, you know, virtual during the pandemic, bringing actress and singer Emily Isabel and with me on it, I would just bring her into it. And because why would they say no to this kid coming on who's amazing that kids can relate to? So people just started letting me like run the show, and I would say behind the scenes, look, there's a lot of kids at home hurting. It's hard. Like, it's gone on longer than we thought. Let's look at it as we have 45 minutes to bring them a show. It's of course going to be educational. Of course we're going to read the books and stories and songs, but let's be that bright light for them. And
mm,
so it was the mindset, and
mm,
that comes from having struggle in my life, having a lot of
mm,
struggle, being told no as a child, being no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. I didn't like being told no, you know. And for me it was like, how do you create the yes? How do you, and the yes would be, you know, who doesn't want to be happy? That's a yes, versus you can't do this. And for me it's just a mindset. And you know, I've had a lot of struggle in my life, a lot of challenges, as many of us do, and I refuse to let that be my story.
mm.
You know, I have a part of my segment of the thing I do is called happiness news. We're seeing the news going on about the pandemic, and you know, let's face it, the news can bring us a lot of negativity, you know, a lot of fear. And I just said, I'm going to make happiness news. So Unicorn Jack, my sock puppet here with just a paper unicorn head, which I'm always going to keep. He comes out in a voice. I get different people to help me and says, welcome to happiness news. What news do you have for us today, Unicorn Jazz? And behind the scenes, all this has been edited, and we bring us just a message, something fun about change, about how a butterfly once started as a caterpillar, change,
Yeah.
about being happy is, you know, going to the beach, going out in nature. And we're adding music to it. And again, I'm learning a lot of things. I learned how to edit during the pandemic. I got interns from Biola University, and all these people that they're happy with the big concept I had, you know, directing, merging it all together, seeing the final piece out, that, you know, families and kids that just gave me a little 20-second clip,
Yeah.
be part of this show, and they would see it, and they, all their families would see it.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone had a part in this happiness, and I wanted that.
There's definitely a theme I see here for you as well, and that is the teamwork theme. That there's so much strength in creating those relationships with other people and then engaging them in your vision.
And think about it, during the pandemic, our relationships were taken away from
Mm,
us, right? Like, we, you know, the word isolation would come with pandemic,
mm,
and we're now, none of us is ever going to forget that feeling.
mm.
For me, even though I was FaceTiming people, kids, and I was happy to talk to a human on FaceTime for, you know, for minutes, and the kids will call me up on FaceTime, you know, they have all this time at home. The parents are like, yes, go talk to Lisa. And
That's
I'm
great.
teaching the kids behind the scenes things like Canva and things that they could do. They would ask me questions like, how do you do the green screen? And my son, by the way, Trey, he's a YouTuber and he knows video editing. I said, you know, you want to talk to my son? He could teach you about YouTube. My son would talk to him. I believe that we're in my family, we always believe like you help others when they ask you something that you can't have the time for. We had time during the pandemic.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. What has been the one thing that you're struggling with now? What is your challenge at this time in this incredible development of all these exciting things that you're doing?
You know, I'm working to get everything I'm doing now with the show, and going back into school doing live author visits again. So for me, you know, they were just coming to me because I was already out there doing it, kind of like you musicians and artists that are out there doing it. It's just going to keep coming. So it's almost like I have to go back to the basics. I go back to Facebook groups. I have to still do email marketing. In getting invited back to schools, going live. And again, a lot of schools, they don't know still when they can bring
Yeah.
guests in.
Mm,
So that would be my struggle, but I still keep doing and creating more content so that I just have an enormous amount, because I know one day I'll be invited out. I get a lot more media. I get to go on incredible platforms like your show, where people, I say, like, if a parent, an educator, teacher, anywhere I will go to, and behind the scenes, I help plan those kinds of visits and story times and songs. But what I have found to, that continues to make me happy and bring happiness to others is to give. Our lives were designed to give people. There's a lot of, I call, currency in helping others. We do ongoing book drives where we ask the public for just donate one book. We have an Amazon wish list. Kids donate their allowance to get us books that go to Children's Hospital of Orange County, or to Shade Tree and Orphanage in Las Vegas, or Erin Community Cultural Center in Los Angeles that serves the community with food banks and all that kinds of stuff. So for me, that keeps me busy. And as you can see, probably my theme is that I don't like to not be busy, or idle time for me does not work well.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that. So if our audience members are interested in supporting you, how can they access your book drive so that we can support you and send more books? Yeah.
Go to our Instagram or Facebook, unicornjazz.com, unicornjazz.com. We're very accessible to find on social media. And we do this ongoing. We're doing a back to school book drive this August. It's coming up. I go read the stories. We give the kids a brand new book. I certainly always donate Unicorn Jazz books. During Christmas time, that's, when people like to give, we get a lot of books in as well. And we get in so many books sometimes that I'd like to disperse them among the different organizations, because there is a need. There's a need for books and happiness, and it's just so much fun to give that to people.
Definitely. We'll definitely put these links in the show notes as well. So if anybody's listening and would like to access them, you'll find them in the show notes on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. My question to you is, what do you think is your superpower, Lisa?
Writing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's something that you love to do.
I love to do when I was a little girl, I often say my only voice was on paper. That was my expression. And I tell the kids, when the teacher said, in journaling, write one paragraph, I wrote 3, write one page, I wrote 5. In college, write 2-page essay, I wrote 12,
Wow.
And that, so, and part of Unicorn Jazz's message is unicorn. That's why I also did unicorn, is that we're all unique and different. We're supposed to be. And I used to, beat myself up for wishing I was popular, wishing I was extroverted, and not liking that I was shy and introverted. But I'll tell you what, looking back, and this is what I tell children when I speak in front of schools, is embrace who you are. In teamwork, we all need these different personalities. If I was talking all the time, I wouldn't be writing. I wouldn't be observing the world. And when you study human behavior, as you know, you have to be able to observe. It's not about you, it's about others.
So what have you learned from children along the way? You've been giving so much to children in this journey. What have you learned from them?
I love working with children. I love feeling young at heart. I have learned that they have that vulnerability. They can tap into it quickly. And I, if you know Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability, and her TED Talk and all that, we should never lose our vulnerability. I've learned from children that they have the I can do anything I want, just guide me attitude. A lot of times adults lose that.
Yeah.
Adults also, sometimes they, when you adult, you have so much responsibility, life takes over, you become a parent, maybe you have a lot of stress in work, maybe you're not doing what you love, and that's going to be stressful. With children, I've learned that they all have their personality blueprint DNA, and that we should guide them to do what's innate with them. Like if someone would have said, Lisa, you like writing, you should really write books one day, and if that was impressed upon me. I also like painting, and I didn't know I'd like painting until I was an adult. And because being in my culture, you weren't encouraged to do art because that's not going to make you money. Like, don't go into, sometimes people are talked out of careers, and I see this happen with children and teens. Parents want them to do what they thought they should have done. And I don't think that you should do that, because we all have our different personality blueprint.
Fascinating.
So I working with children, I like to be able to tell them to that level, and maybe they will be a doctor, but still be the artist on the side if that's your thing, because that's going to make you happy.
So what is your definition of happiness?
Having peace, having a purpose, and doing things for other people, giving your life away.
Mm. Wow, that's beautiful. That's definitely what you've been doing. So do you find yourself, do you feel happy?
You know, I do. I feel at peace. I thank God in each and every day. I've worked at it, and I have had my own trying times during the pandemic. Um, I I feel that when you live in truth, whatever that truth is for you, and we all know our truth, when you're doing the right things, and we know what right and wrong is, we all have a conscience. And for me, because I have a moral responsibility and I do speak with children, and I don't take that lightly, you know, I always say, who am I to speak about truth and kindness if I'm not living that? So
Mm.
the work of Unicorn Jazz has definitely every day makes me a better person, makes me, you know, be kinder to people. And not that I'm perfect, but I have this grace now.
Mm.
I have my family, my sisters, my people that support me. They see the platform, and everyone helps to make me a better person. I take the time to talk to people. I take the time to be present in all the hats that I talked about earlier, and make sure I'm doing that, and knowing that we're all going to have loss and suffering in life, and do I want that? No, but I look at it like, how am I going to get back up? What am I going to, what's going to change my mind if I have loss? And honestly, I just can go into writing a song, creating another book, that kind of thing. So I feel like for people, it's important to know what are your five hats, so that when you experience a loss in any of them, what can you do for to have a different, happier mindset?
Oh, I love that. I love that. So if you could give us in just one brief 30-second clip the greatest message that Unicorn Jazz could give to children of all ages, what would you think is the most important message?
The most important message would be to embrace your uniqueness,
Mm.
to be happy with who you are. And there's a quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald that's in the last chapter of Skip a Step that says, I hope you live a life you're proud of. I hope you live a life that's true. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage, you have the strength to start over again.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for living your life of courage and truth and bringing such a beautiful, beautiful message to our future generation, the future leaders of our country and of our world. So thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you for having me, Taryn.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. And I'm so excited to be looking at getting ready for this new show that's coming on, or the new season of the thing I do. And especially
Yes.
with all the influence of all your guests.
Yes, it's going to be incredible for everyone to see everything we did behind the scenes, really mainly the pandemic. That's what we're proud of. And then to create another season and onward. Oh, so excited. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone listening.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today on the Business of Happiness. I know this has been enormously inspirational to me, and I hope you take this message with you. And as Lisa said, embrace your uniqueness and be happy with who you are. Goodbye.
Bye.